welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is our fabulous producer, Wayne Ridenauer in Memphis, Tennessee. And of course, my co-host for the evening, Todd TC Corder on the other side of Atlanta. And you can find us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, X or Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, Apple and Spotify. Our personal Twitters at JJ Get You One for myself, at RWY Jr. for Wayne, and at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, and at LG for Real Though for Larry Gardner, who is absent tonight, doing his thing on the farm for the Rome Braves. How's everybody doing? I'll tee it off, man. I'm doing great, but not as well as the HBCU Go app. It's the best place to catch all 107 HBCU schools from the SWAC to the SIAC. Download the HBCU Go app today and catch five free football games, including the Chicago Football and Southern Heritage Classics. Wayne, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty good. We're excited about football getting started here in Memphis. As of yet, I don't know how the Memphis Tigers are going to be shaping up, but I'm just glad we don't have to play University of Texas San Antonio, because they're a tough team.
Tough team, new look in the AAC over there, and they're doing a crazy stunt. Memphis is $60, and then if they win the game, you get tickets to the next one, right?
Right.
Pretty cool. Try and get as many butts in the seats is awesome. I wish more schools would do it. Todd, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Fantastic. A top 25 team is the University of Texas San Antonio, and you're right. To avoid them would be good. You want to play them later than sooner. Speaking of apps, I'll have St. Petersburg Prep, a high school out of New Jersey, taking on Creekside at Morehouse College Saturday at 4:30. It'll be on the Game Mike app. Go to Max Preps. Go under the where Creekside is playing St. Petersburg Prep for 99 cents. Push play, and you'll get the play-by-play from myself. And I can't wait to do it. Two highly ranked teams in high school football, and should be a good one. It'll all be hot and humid, 100 degrees at kickoff. They moved the kickoff from 2:30 to 4:30 because there's a game after that. At least one of them won't be in the high heat.
What's on tap for today's show? We have Lawerncia Moten, play-by-play and sideline reporter for HBCU Go. How many Braves wins will they finish the season with? Or I should say, let me reverse that. How many wins will the Braves finish the season with? And sticking with the win total theme, how many wins did the Falcons get? Plus our final thoughts. That's what's on tap. Now let's welcome in our guest, Lawerncia Moten of the HBCU Go app, sideline reporter, play-by-play color commentary, kind of a jack of all trades. Lawerncia, welcome to the show. How are you this evening, and thanks for coming on.
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me. What a warm welcome. So happy to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Tell our listeners who aren't familiar with you what you do with HBCU Go.
Well, coming up September 2nd, that's our football season. That's when we all start. So I'm going to be sideline reporting our cable games. We do cable and syndicated games for the CIAA, the SIAC, SWAC conferences. So I'll be sideline reporting, but I do color and play-by-play for basketball season. That's what you mentioned. So you hit it on the nail.
Awesome. Well, I'll knock it out the park with the first question. The preseason HBCU All-Americans were released. 5 SIAC players made the list, including wide receiver Jaquez Jones from Lane, Jalil Lenore from Central State, and punter Ryan Duff from Tuskegee. What does this mean for Division II football and the SIAC?
Well, I got the chance to cover the SIAC Media Day that took place in Atlanta, Georgia at the College Football Hall of Fame. And just the feeling overall was a feeling of excitement from every single team. When they did the rankings, regardless of placement, coaches were super excited and they seem to have turned over a new leaf. So I'd say that everyone's excited to make their mark and the commissioner's super he's making a big deal out of the viewership rights. So with us, HBCU Go, being able to have more games televised and just give these athletes the representation that they deserve.
Well, speaking of the SIAC Media Day, I was there too, and that's when I recognized you when you came on the screen, and I saw you on your Twitter feed and everything. And I know you were quite busy that day, didn't have time to say hello. I was busy myself, and Media Day is the start of the season. Even though it was in July, they also had the SIAC Hall of Fame, which was really a good idea by the conference to do that, to promote it. When I look at the SIAC this year, Lawerncia, I see Fort Valley State. They have the most preseason conference players. I know that Benedict is a defending champ, but I tell you what, I see Fort Valley winning this conference this year, and I like it that we're going to one division instead of two. For one reason, you're going to get the two best teams in the championship game for sure. And maybe the other reason I don't like it is because some of these teams are going to be out of the race quicker than they normally would when you split up the division, because last year in the West, there were only 5 teams, and, 4 of them were in it until the last week, which was really exciting for a school like Kentucky State and Central State. What are your thoughts on the conference this year and everything else?
Great question, Todd. Well, I got the chance during Media Day, and I wish you said hi now. It's fine. We'll see each other again. We'll cross paths again.
It was crazy that day.
Yeah, no, it was crazy, but in a good way. And I got the chance to sit down with the commissioner, and he was just talking about some of the changes that he has been able to make, and just the idea that it's going to make the conference more competitive. And like I talked about before, that's kind of the feeling that I got. All of these athletes and coaches are super eager, and regardless of where they placed, everyone has a chance. I mean, you're not too far for Fort Valley State, but for our first game, actually, for the Carolina Classic, Benedict College against Shaw is who we're going to be covering on HBCU Go. So that's going to be a really big game, and I'm going to be covering it, doing sideline. And I think that's going to be a big telltale sign to see how Benedict College comes out, whether they're going to, ignite that. Is it going to ignite that fire, or are they going to be complacent? So I'm excited to see. And then I'll let you know. After the first game, I'll let you know if I think Fort Valley State is going to take that W in the end.
You're listening to Lawerncia Moten right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can find Lawerncia on Twitter or X at Moten. That's LALAMOTEN, correct?
That's correct.
I believe I got that right.
You did.
Well, let's stick with the SIAC theme. I called Tuskegee and Kentucky State last year, and a player really stood out to me, Antonio Meeks, from my hometown right here in Lilburn, Georgia. Went to Shiloh High School, a rival of my high school football in Parkview. So I want to talk about Antonio Meeks and Tuskegee. Where do you see Tuskegee finishing in the standings?
Well, Tuskegee has always had a competitive program. I mean, they're rich with so much history within the HBCU realm, so they're not a team that you could ever look over. But for this upcoming year, I think they would fall in the middle, pretty similar to kind of how they've been in the past, because it's super competitive, and I feel like
Sure.
they're a pretty young team in comparison to the other rosters on other teams. So, it's up in the air, but they're not a team that you can count out ever. And Antonio Meeks is a great player.
Very fun to watch. Great physical player on the outside. Great route tree. You got to love that as a coach. Smart player. He always seems to be making the play. Just always seems to be making the play.
Lawerncia, I'll tell you what now, you mentioned Tuskegee. Gosh, I see them up in the top 3 or 4. That's interesting. It's a program, you mentioned it, a ton of history. I mean, just players galore. And they're going through a coaching change. They had a coach there for years, but I mean, this year, Aaron James in his first year coming in, he's taken over a pretty good program it's stacked with players. Vincent Hill is another really good one for Tuskegee. They got a lot of talent. They have a lot of tradition. That game against Miles, I mean, the first game I ever did in the SIAC back in 2019, I did the Western Division Championship game. Miles happened to win it. But I tell you what, there were 40,000 people there. You know, the 8 to 10,000 packed in the stands, but the RVs, atmosphere all around. I mean, I had to get a police escort to get me in there, and I was super early for the game. I still was early, not as early as I like, because I had to have a police escort get me in there. I mean, that is something that you know, a lot of teams don't have in this conference quite yet, but they're working on it.
I mean, home field advantage is something that is undeniable, right? I mean, when you feel the atmosphere, you know, those fans are going to rally behind you. That will give you that extra push, you know? So that's something X's and O's can't necessarily draw up. So we'll just have to see how they pan out. But like you mentioned, Tuskegee has an amazingly rich history in football of winning.
Listen to, go ahead, Todd.
Oh, it's good. I didn't say anything. You know what? Speaking of rich and tradition, head coach Willie Slater is now here in town at Clark Atlanta. I've got to know him the last 5 years. The dean of SIAC coaches. You know what he did at Tuskegee, and they almost nipped Tuskegee last year when Clark Atlanta played them. I know that game is circled on his wagon. That'll be interesting if he gets them in year 2. Clark Atlanta going through a rebuild, that I tell you what, they did get a lot of players in the transfer portal, and they still weren't done. Amazingly, at SIAC Media Day, they've got a really couple good players in Ronnie West and Cameron Ivey. I wonder if this team's going to sneak up on some folks.
Definitely. And I mean, we have 5 SIAC games that we're going to be broadcasting on HBCU Go, so the fans can definitely check them out there. A 5-camera setup. I mean, this is it's going to be an immaculate broadcast. So I'm super excited to see how the players also play, knowing that, you know, this will be the first time that they've actually had this sort of broadcast for this conference. So I'm excited to see what they do, knowing that as well.
Speaking of improved broadcast, I want to talk about who I feel is going to be improved in the SIAC. And I think Central State might be the most improved team. Second team, Brandon Brock, wide receiver, another playmaker there on the outside for Kevin Porter. They're going to throw it around. They got another guy on the defensive preseason All-American team. We just talked about Lenore. This team's got playmakers all over the place. I think Central State will be the most improved team. Who do you see as the most improved team from the bottom last year?
I wouldn't say too much of a team overall, but I would say one player that I see having the biggest jump would be Lubert Danielius. And I mean, he was the defensive player of the conference, but he's only a junior, right? And I got to talk to him during media day, and his work ethic that he talked to me about and his off-season workouts, I think are really going to give him a push. And this could be his breakout year and potentially put him to the league. And that's something that HBCU players, it's a big deal for them to go to the next level, the professional level.
Wayne, you had a comment. Go ahead and get it in, buddy.
All right. Well, you know, Memphis has kind of a connection with the SIAC through mostly basketball, because we've got Lamo and Owen College here, the Magicians, and they usually have a really good basketball team. And also a former point guard for the Memphis Tigers, Andre Turner, is the coach at I forgot the name of that school now. It's one that I think Todd had covered one time. Lane College. That's it.
That's it.
And also as far as football goes, we have the American Heritage or the Southern Heritage Classic here, and what you're now going to have to get used to calling the Simmons Liberty Bowl, which is kind of weird for me. It's still going to be the Liberty Bowl to me. But do you know if the HBCU Go app will continue on into the basketball season?
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be continuing on into the basketball season for sure. I could definitely tell you that. And you talked about the Southern Heritage Classic. We're actually going to be covering that on HBC Go for the SWAC conference. 2 classics for SWAC: the Chicago Football Classic at Soldier Field. That's going to be the first game of the season, and then the Southern Heritage Classic. So not only can you see those for football season on that, but you'll be able to see them, see basketball games as well. So yes.
The Central State on the NFL Network. They were on it a year ago, and that was Brandon Kyle's debut with Central State. If they keep him upright, he can really sling it. Speaking of quarterbacks in his conference and can sling it, Kelvin Durham, the preseason offensive player at Fort Valley State, the redshirt sophomore quarterback from Homestead, Florida. I tell you what, he led the league in passing touchdowns and total offense. He not only can throw it, but he also can run it.
That's awesome, for sure. Something else to mention, because I know we've been talking about HBCU Go being an app, but it's
Yep.
actually a free streaming digital platform. So you can get it on cable and syndicated. If you go to the website, you're able to type in your area code and they'll tell you exactly like what cable provider you have and what channel it's going to be for
Right.
everyone.
Excellent.
So it's not only an app, but you can actually watch it on TV, which is pretty
That-
cool.
That's always good. You don't have to add the app to your TV
Yeah,
or
you don't even
stream your
have to
phone.
download
That's
anything.
very cool
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, it's awesome for college football. I can't wait to see what it does in the future. New ownership a couple years ago, and here we are now. We're in fast forward mode. Now, listeners, Lawerncia, you do a podcast Beyond Balling, if I'm not mistaken. Tell our listeners how they can catch you there and listen
Oh,
to that
yeah.
podcast.
Oh, nice, JJ. You did your research. I love that. A journalist near my heart.
Got
Yes,
to.
I do a podcast called Beyond Ballin', and you guys can catch me on YouTube, Instagram as well. My handles are pretty much all the same. But it's just focusing on seeing athletes as holistic human beings, right? We get so caught up in X's and O's and who these players are on the field or on the court. But this is a chance for them to step away and talk to someone who cares a little bit more about what they got going on outside of their respective sport. So that's kind of my baby, my passion project, as I'd say. And yeah,
That's awesome. Hey,
That's
thank
you
you.
you cover NIL in there and things like that and life of an athlete, stuff like that?
Yeah, so my first two episodes that aired were professional athletes. So the first one was Isaiah Todd, he plays for the Washington Wizards. And then my second one was Kyla Charles, who at the time played for the Atlanta Dream. So they were on the other side of the NIL, but Kyla's the same year as me, and Isaiah didn't even go to college. So we did talk about the NIL, but in a way of what would they have done if they were given the opportunity. So
You know what, Lawerncia, what do you think of the situation that was at Jackson State? Deion Sanders was there. I thought he brought a notoriety, a lot of it to the SWAC. Of course, his son played quarterback there. He moved on with him to Colorado. And are you doing any SWAC games this year? Because I tell you what, that's a step up. That's D1 football. And what do you think of Deion Sanders going? Because I mean, he had an opportunity, and I understood why he did it.
yeah, I have a different perspective because similar to you, we see kind of like both sides of the coin. So
Right.
as an athlete, it's hard to see your coach go, but understanding that this is a business at the end of the day. And if he had an opportunity where he could potentially get more money, I think he did what was best for him and his family. But to answer your question about SWAC games, I'm not going to be covering any, sadly, but the HBCU Go will. 12
Right.
games we have that will be covered on HBCU Go, 12 SWAC games. So Slack action is going to be, and it's a multi-year deal that HBCU Go has been able to accomplish with the SWAC conference. So that's huge. And great enough, all of the fans that Dion has, and all the eyes, I just say, that Dion has brought onto the SWAC conference,
Yes.
HBCU football in general have stayed because our viewership has definitely gone up in the past year.
James Houston, who plays for the Detroit Lions, he was a sixth rounder last year from Jackson State. He didn't get a lot of playing time, and when he stepped right in, Dan Campbell couldn't get him off the field. It was really awesome to see that, to get to able to help to go from an HBCU school to the NFL and get a lot of playing time. I mean, there's been Jerry Rice, there's been Walter Payton, there's been a lot of great players back in the day, and if it can stay like that or get like that again in the future. I mean, you had a Hall of Famer to wide receiver, Mississippi Valley State, and Rice. Of course, I mentioned Walter Payton. I mean, that is Doug Williams. He was a great player. Grambling, gosh, I'm so old. I saw Doug Williams play in the Silverdome when he played for Tampa Bay against the Lions back in the day. That'll kind of tell you how old I am. But
No, listen, I'm a
Doug
huge
is
fan
really
of
good.
Doug. I'm a huge fan of Doug because I'm actually in Washington, D.C. So, his ties to the Commanders. So I've actually met him a few times in person. And you touched on it, HBCU football has a great history in the NFL, but it's been in the past, right? So I feel like a lot of people were disappointed with the amount of HBCU draftees that we've had in recent years, but when they get an opportunity, not many of them have disappointed. So I think, being able to have networks like HBCU Go and even ESPN that are able to stream these games and give these athletes more eyes on them, I think can help them with their stock in the draft.
Do you have any basketball games in this part of the country on the Go app? I know that Clayton State that played Savannah State a year ago. I got to meet Horace Broadnax, who played at Georgetown with Patrick Ewing, won the national title in '84 for the Hoyas. This year, I've got Clark Atlanta playing Clayton State. Are you doing any games in the SIAC down here in the Southeast?
So they're kind of keeping us compartmentalized, and they haven't given our basketball season schedule just yet. So you'll be the first one to know because, yeah, it's right in your hometown. But we're not sure about basketball season yet. I think we're just all focused on football season. And the crew that you will see doing both the cable and syndicated games will continue on to basketball season. So it'll be very familiar faces, and you'll see us for both sports.
Well, I hope I run into some of them on the games. That would be awesome.
For sure. I'm sure you will. It's just the sports reporting world, I'm realizing, is so small. It's awesome.
It's a good circle, isn't
Yeah.
it? Well, Lawerncia, thanks for coming on today. It's about all the time we have. You're welcome here anytime. You can find Lawerncia on Twitter or X. I don't know which one we're calling it yet, so I'm doing both. At LALA Moten, that's Lala Moten, and please check out her podcast, Beyond Balling, on YouTube. Thanks for joining us tonight, Lawerncia.
Invite us on your podcast. Well, come on.
Yeah, I know, right? Literally. No, it's in person. So let me know if you guys actually have time, and we'll get you down to DC and we'll do it.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Lawerncia Moten of HBCU Go. Thanks for coming on. Have a good night, Lawerncia.
Thank you.
And we'll continue this thing on with a little Atlanta Prime Sports, Atlanta Falcons talk. Go from football to football here. The Falcons' final preseason game is Thursday versus Pittsburgh, who will play their starters. Atlanta opens the season up 2 weeks later at home versus Carolina. How many wins do the Falcons get this season? And please go check us out at ATL Prime Sports and vote on our poll question. How many wins do you think the Atlanta Falcons will get? TC, let's start with you, buddy.
Hey, you have a mediocre NFL roster. You have a quarterback who's played 3.5 games against starters. He's still a rookie. Rookies historically do not do well. So in Desmond Ridder, you have above talent at the running back position with Robinson. He'll be really excited. The receivers, maybe a little bit above average. The offensive line is average. The defensive line is average. The secondary slightly above average, and the linebacking core is average. They've lost their leading tackler 2 years in a row. This is a team that has overachieved in the last 2 years, 7-10. I know a lot of homers out there have been saying this team can make the playoffs, and their reasoning is, and that would be you, JJ, one of them, is their reasoning is, well, they're in a lousy division, 9-8 can win it. Well, when you look at the Saints personnel, their personnel is above average in most places, and they have the best quarterback in the division, and Carr coming over from the Raiders. Now, I know Alvin Kamara will be out because he has some issues, obviously, but this is a team that has above talent everywhere. And when you look at the Super Bowl odds, the Falcons are 23rd out of 30, and New Orleans is a pack. Now, I know the other two teams in the division are below Atlanta, but I look at this, when I look at the Falcons schedule, I see an 8-win season. And Coach Smith has done a really good job upgrading the personnel. They spent a ton of money. But look, a lot of it's aging personnel. And you know what? They get injuries. This is not a deep football team. So I say 8 wins.
I like your 8 wins, and I think they get one more than that. And guess what? 8 wins won the division last year.
It's not.
The NFL and the NFC South is the worst division in the NFL. It was released on NFL.com today if you want to go check it out. Look, 9-8. I think that might be enough to win the division, and I think they can win the division. They spent tons of money revamping this roster. Jesse Bates, 4 years, $64 million. Onyemata, 3 years, 35. Linebacker Cade Ellis, who had 7 sacks for New Orleans last year, which was a career high. Bates has 14 career interceptions. Guys, he's only 26 years old. He's on pace for a Hall of Fame type career. He stays healthy, and just like all the other players that I mentioned, they stay healthy. They play long periods of time for 16, 17 game seasons. All three have familiarity with the defensive coaching staff in Atlanta. And let's not mention the addition of Mac Hollins, a big physical player for Ritter to throw the ball to, 6 feet 4 inches, 221 pounds, with 4 touchdowns last year with Derek Carr and the Vegas Raiders. You want to say Derek Carr's the best quarterback in this conference. He's got an under 500 record, and he's got an injury history in this league. I don't know if a player that gets injured all the time, like Michael Thomas and Derek Carr, are going to gel together right off the bat. I just don't know. Alvin Kamara is a big part of that offense. He's gone, suspended for 3 or 4 games, I believe. Jamal Williams has never been the number 1 guy. He's always been a secondary back, so we'll see how that reacts. And their 2 leading tacklers from last year are now in an Atlanta Falcons uniform with their previous defensive line coach. I don't know what everybody's sleeping on. Dominic Foxworth agrees with me. He thinks Atlanta Falcons win the division.
He's the only one. Look at all these experts.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. A lot of media around the country.
I'll let you talk. Hang on. Look at all the
I'm not done yet, Todd. I'm not done yet. A lot of media personnel around the country are picking the Atlanta Falcons to win the division, like Dominic Foxworth, a former Falcons player himself.
Look, I'm trying to have a conversation back and forth.
I wasn't finished yet.
What I'm trying to say is
now you can speak because I was done.
All the experts are saying the Falcons are going to finish second. You're going to get a few like Dominic Foxworth. I was trying to have a conversation with you. Look, Derek Carr is the most proven quarterback in this division. He's had injuries, but you have an unproven rookie quarterback in Desmond Ritter.
You keep saying rookie, but he's not a rookie.
He is a rookie. He's played 3.5 games.
4. He started the last 4 games of the season. He went 2-2, and he didn't throw an interception. I'm not going to say he's not a rookie, but I'm not going to say he's a flat-out rookie. He's got experience in the NFL. Now let's go. You want to conversate? Mahomes, 1 start. The next year, AFC Championship game. Lost to Tom Brady. Ring a bell. Jalen Hurts, 4 starts. The next year, NFC champion. So recent history would tell me you don't need it. Also, you can tack Joe Burrow on in there. Gets hurt, only started 4 games. Super Bowl the next year.
It's rare. It's rare. I can go back. Peyton Manning, I'm telling you, usually these quarterbacks need a full season of games before they start playing.
I agree with that.
Well,
recently,
he's only played 3.5 games against starters.
He started 4 games, Todd, and he played all 4.
Right in the second half of the Tampa Bay game, it was against backups.
It doesn't matter. The experience is there. This isn't college football. This is the NFL. There's 53 men on a reason, 53 men that make a roster, and they're all very good football players. I'm not going to discredit your opinion. I mean, heck, it's all it is opinion right now. And I'm not saying the Falcons are going to go out and knock the world off and go 11-6 or 17-0 like my colleague Wayne over here. But I'd love that. But let's face it, they spent a lot of money, and this isn't your average Atlanta Falcons team that won 7 games the last 2 years and overachieved. 8 wins won the division last year with Tom Brady at the helm. So what are we doing? I want to hear Wayne's thoughts, and then we can go back and forth a little bit longer. But I do want to get a little Braves talk in because they are balling. Wayne, how many wins do you think? 17?
Well, I would like to say 17. Every part of me wants to say 17, but I've decided I'm going to get realistic. I'm going to come back down to earth. 15 wins.
I like it. I love it. Got your thing of 15-2. I'll buy everybody a lottery ticket.
But if I told you, they go 15-2, you're going to have steaks delivered to your house. You look at the schedule. Carolina at home, maybe they get a win, a rookie quarterback. Green Bay Green Bay's playing a young quarterback, but he's got more experience. I think the Packers are going to be sneaky good. They lose that game. They go to Detroit, loss. Play at Jacksonville, who's going to be a really good team in the NFC, loss. Houston, okay, I'll give you that win. Washington, no, they won't beat them. Better defense. Tampa Bay, that's
You think Washington's better than Atlanta personnel-wise? You're crazy.
Yes.
No, they're not.
One that ever said it. They beat them last year, and yes, personnel-wise, they are better. Go look it up.
They beat him with Heineke, and he's a Falcon now.
Tampa Bay, a toss-up. At Tennessee, loss. Minnesota, loss. Arizona, toss-up. New Orleans.
Toss-up. Arizona's the worst roster in the NFL. Come on, Todd.
Jets, loss. The only thing saving the Falcons is playing.
I don't think the Jets is a loss. I'll make a bold prediction, and I'll say the Packers finish with a better record than the New York Jets. I'll make this bold statement right here today.
We'll see. We'll see. But
the Packers have a good roster. The only thing lacking is a quarterback. We've seen that.
Gee, that's only most.
Look, I'm not discrediting anybody's opinion here. All I'm saying is 9 wins. We're 1 game off. So with the way you just mentioned, it looks like the Falcons are going to go 6-11 because that's what you just named off as 6 wins. So
I didn't say 6. I said there were toss-ups in there. They're going to win probably 8 games.
Well, you called the Cardinals a loss.
No, I didn't.
A toss-up. I don't think the Cardinals is a toss-up game.
I
in my
said
opinion.
Toss up.
We will see. Time will tell. That's about all the time we have. Hey, great conversation on the Falcons. Let's move on. Let's get another win total. We are sticking with the win total theme. The Braves were the first team in Major League Baseball to reach the 80-win mark. How many games will the Braves win at season's end? I'm saying 103. I said it at the beginning of the year. That's the number I stuck with. Through 100 games, that was the pace. They were 64-36. Another pace to look out for, though, is currently on pace for 309, 310, depending on the math you do, for home runs in a season. That would tie or break the 2019 Twins record for home runs. They currently sit at 239, so watch out for that pace. But my answer for that one, I think 103. It's what I said at the beginning of the year. Todd, what say you?
Well, it depends on if you get some key injuries down the stretch. It's also going to depend how big the division lead is, where the Snicker's going to rest some players. To sit here and give you a number, I'm not going to give a number because at this particular moment in time, those things can have an impact on the winning record. They'll most likely win 100 games. What are they, 81 now? So, they play around 500 ball. They're going to be well over 100 games. But you know what? Nobody's going to care how many regular season wins they have. The only thing they're going to care about, unfortunately, is the ring. They either get it or they don't. They have the best record in the league. We can go on to the next subject. I mean, to me, they can have all the home runs they want, but if they bow out in the National League playoffs and they don't make it to the World Series, nobody's going to remember that neither.
Yeah, which brings us to our next topic about the Braves. Where does this Braves team rank in terms of all-time Braves teams? Look, on paper, this is one of the best ones ever, but special teams are crowned champions, and you can have a special season and not be a champion. So this is a super special season because Atlanta is doing something that is unprecedented and could never be seen before if they eclipse the 309 home run mark, which they are well on pace to do. 120 plus runs, 165 plus hits, 35 plus home runs. Those are all first inning numbers, folks. First inning numbers. It's the best in baseball. This team is dominating offensively. Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
You can't deny the power numbers. You're right.
Yeah, it's 7 players with 20 plus home runs, 5 of them with 25 plus or more. This is no 1995 team with 3 frontline pitchers, but boy, you do have 3 or 4 arguably Hall of Fame type players if they keep this pace up, of course, which is a big if. But I mean, Michael Harris is playing Hall of Fame level right now. Acuna is the MVP. Austin Riley's playing great, and golly, you take away the first 4 weeks of the season from Marcell Ozuna. That guy's batting like 300, and he's got the longest hit streak in Major League Baseball going right now. So unbelievable what this team has done on paper. They got to finish it out, though. Look, the 98 Braves won the most games, 106, Todd, as you know, and they caught a hot Ken Caminiti and a hot Tony Gwynn and lost in the LCS. And then they caught the best Braves, best dang Yankees team in my mind, the 98 Yankees. Nobody's beaten that team. 4-0. So this is a pretty historic Braves program, a pretty special team, if you ask me. One of the most special ones in recent memory. If they get crowned champion, that's another category of special. TC, what do you think? Where does this team rank in all-time Braves?
Well, I mean, look, the season's not done. I mean, what is today? August 23rd. So in terms of power numbers, we'll see where they finish. They've got a chance to eclipse the Twins record, which you've stated. They have several players in double digits in the lineup, which you've stated. You stated Marcell Ozuna got off to the slow start. You can't count. The slow start is what it is. His numbers are what they are. Ronald Acuna is stayed healthy, which to me is a huge bonus for Atlanta. Staying healthy is a must. That's one player I don't think Atlanta can win the championship without. I mean, he gives you a Ricky Henderson.
Not again, anyway.
What's that?
So not again, anyway.
No, we're not doing it again. That 2021 when Alex Anthopoulos revamped the outfield, that's not happening now. We're past the deadline. But you look at it in with Acuna's got some special numbers with the home runs, the average, and the RBIs at the leadoff spot. That's really tough to do because a lot of times you're just coming up and it's just you. There's nobody on base, especially to start the game. Now, the stolen base numbers, they're, what are they, 55? I don't know what they are. I'm guessing 55.
58, 59. I think he's right around the 60 mark.
Okay, that's skewed. Okay, that's because of the stupid rules in Major League Baseball where you can only throw over twice, and he knows he's going to go the third time, or you got to pick him off, or he's out, or he gets the free base. I mean, all the stolen base numbers are just skewed. Ricky Henderson, Lou Brock, they're laughing their ass off at the rules today in Major League Baseball where you can take a base. That's ridiculous. In terms of being a great team all time, this rotation doesn't stack up with the 95 Braves and the 3 Hall of Famers and et cetera. Does it stack up in terms of power numbers? Well, yes. Does it stack up in terms of average numbers? I haven't looked to see what the 95.
It's way higher than their average was. Way higher, by about 35 points offensively.
So is the team batting average of this year's club, is it higher than the 95 Braves?
They're really close to doing something no Major League Baseball team has done.
What do you mean?
It's unprecedented. Their average a couple weeks ago as a team was 275.
That's not unprecedented. Maybe in Atlanta Braves history, but Major League history, it's not unprecedented. Teams back in the day hit for average better than they do today. There's a record amount of strikeouts in the game, and there's a record amount, least amount of balls put in play. It's either a walk, a strikeout, or a home run. It's still that way thanks to the launch angle. Look, just to say it real quick, they didn't need a pitch count. All they need to do with the umpires is tell the players to get back in the box, raise the mound up, back the fence up. You'll see less home runs, but these players will be required to put the ball in play more. I'm going to go back to the question. They're not as good. Now, in the bullpen, I'll definitely say this club was better than the 95 Braves. But the rotation, it's not even close. Now, the lineup is probably deeper.
It's way better. It's way better. But
pitching wins games. I've got to give it to the 95.
Unless you're the 21 Braves.
Yeah, you got 3 Hall of Famers, and you had a Hall of Fame third baseman on that team too, where we don't know who's going to be a Hall of Famer from this group yet. It's all projection. So,
Wayne, what do you got? Where do you see the Braves finishing win total wise?
No, well, it's definitely going to be close to 100, if not slightly over it. But I'm a Texas fan, and so right now I'm kind of suffering a little bit.
You guys are hurting. Little losing streak going.
Well, I will say this, and this is a guarantee that after a 6-game losing streak, the Texas Rangers will not lose tonight.
Who they playing? I don't even know.
I like
Well,
it.
they don't play tonight. They play
Oh,
the
that's why they
Twins
won't
tomorrow.
lose tonight. Okay.
That's exactly why they won't lose. I like it. Hey, that's great. That's a great statistic because it's 100% factually correct. They
Right.
will not
Right.
lose tonight.
You
And
know what?
folks,
They're a dogfight with Houston. And to
Yeah.
tell you what, Seattle came up and they could steal that division after all.
they really could. They're playing
Yeah.
extremely good ball right now.
Well,
It's gonna be
and
fun down the stretch. A lot of pennant races. A lot of teams still in the wild card. At
Yeah,
one
well,
point, in the
Texas
wild
has to
card
play.
game.
Texas has to play 4 games against Minnesota coming up, and Minnesota's trying to stay on top of their division now, so it's not going to be an easy
You know, that's
series.
funny. You mentioned that. I mean, the Twins, I think, are what, 7 games up on the Tigers and a handful of games up on whatever you call them now, the Commanders.
I think it's 4.5.
The Guardians, whatever. Whatever. The Guardians, right. So that is the worst division in baseball. There's no doubt. But the other two
Go
American,
Guards.
huh?
They say go Guards.
Oh,
That's what they
God.
say.
Yeah. Anyway,
Go Guards.
But the sad thing is, Detroit is what, 9 games under, and they still have an outside chance to win the division. If the Yankees, who are in last place in the East, the Yankees spent, matter of fact, you mentioned it, the Falcons spending all that money. The Yankees spent
Hey,
all that money.
Speaking
and
of the
look where
Tigers,
what's that?
so speaking of the Tigers,
What
Parker
about?
Meadows, major league debut.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's up and, he's done all right for himself. He's got a triple and a beautiful diving catch in center.
Yeah, he had a triple and a single in his major league debut, a triple in the second of the doubleheader. I spoke with his mom yesterday. Hats off to the Meadow brothers. Austin, our thoughts are with you, brother. Get with your brother in the show, man. That'd be an awesome.
Well, that
awesome.
sure would help the Tigers.
That would help the Tigers, baby.
It would. And
Austin,
you know
get
what?
your head right. Parker, congratulations. Guys, let's get to our final thoughts.
Hey, can we finish the baseball just for a minute?
Sure.
Stick with the American League if you don't mind. We got a little bit. That's the worst division in baseball, the Central. The East and the West, well, the East is loaded. The Yankees spent all that money. You mentioned the Falcons spending all that money. And, spending money just doesn't matter. If your players are injured and you're not playing well, I mean, look at the big payrolls in baseball, the Yankees and Mets. Everybody was saying that was going to be the World Series this year. Guess what? The Yankees are going to finish last, and the Mets could finish last. So, spending the money doesn't mean anything. Tampa Bay doesn't spend anything, and all they do is win. I mean, it really is incredible what a team like Baltimore does. They're not on a big payroll. That AL East is a monster. And look at the Angels. They spend a ton of money. They're not winning. Flip over the NL. Look at who else has spent a lot of money? Well, the Dodgers, they've cut payroll.
The Cubs spent a lot of money, but they're on their brink. The Cubs spent a ton of money in the offseason.
Thank God they're in the Central. Think about that. If they were in the West, their only alternative to the playoff would be the wild card.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I've got a question for you, Todd, because now I'm confused. If spending all this money doesn't result in anything positive like you would think, how in the heck am I supposed to follow the money?
You follow the money because that's what the team's doing with the money. Texas.
Yeah, but if it ain't winning, then why am I following it? Maybe I need to follow whatever's winning.
Todd's tongue is twisted.
All right. And you know what? No, it's not. And I'll answer that question. Because if they spend a lot of money the next year, what do you think they're going to this year? What are they going to do with the payroll next year? How are they going to alternate that money? Are they going to lower it? Are they going to go with youth? Are they even going to spend more money like the Mets and still fall apart? See, you always got to follow the money, especially when it comes to business decisions in all levels of sports, from pee-wee to the pros. Follow the money.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, let's get to our final thoughts, fellas. That wraps up our show. If you like the content, please subscribe, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at ATL Prime Sports. The PGA Tour Championship tees off tomorrow, Thursday, afternoon. The top 30 golfers in the world play right here in Atlanta at East Lake Golf Club. Defending champion Rory McIlroy tees off Thursday at 1:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to a fun weekend of golf and a little college football week 0, folks. Get ready. That's my final thought. Wayne, what you got?
Well, my final thought is going to be probably a final thought all the way up until September 7th, when the regular season finally starts. I'm tired of these it don't matter games, and I'm ready to get into some real football where some people can play some bets and win some real money.
You know what? It's good. You know what? I understand that as a fan. If I can elaborate on that for a minute, I really understand that. But these preseason games, there's only 3 of them now, and they really do matter for guys that are trying to make the club. I love what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. They're playing the Falcons, tomorrow night at 7:30 in the Dome. They're playing their starters. They're playing Kenny Pickett. They're looking good. This team may be a surprise in the AFC. Really, to me, it depends on that offensive line because they've got Georgia boys on offense and Pickens and Pickens from
UGA.
Yeah, Pickens from UGA, Washington from UGA, Pickett, the quarterback, Pickett to Pickens. The P's are going to be the alphabet in Pittsburgh this
Pickett
year.
fences.
Right, and they got Harris, the running back. Really, if the Steelers open up some holes, are able to get some balance, their defense is above average. They'll be a sleeper in the AFC. You're going to see them play Pittsburgh tomorrow night. To elaborate on this point, I want to include you guys on my final thoughts today because
we're getting to the final thought. Nice.
I want to include all of you. I really do. I want to share. I want to have a conversation. You know, I'm going to pose this question to you guys, and I'll have the question. Who is in the better situation? To me, this is so obvious. Desmond Ridder or Carson Beck? And to me, it's Carson Beck for the Dogs. This kid, I saw it on Rookie Watch on Twitter, and I've heard in circles around the NFL, just you hear it from the grapevine every day. If Carson Beck plays really well, he could be a top 10 draft choice in next year's NFL draft. I tell you what, he's got all the tools. He don't have the mobility.
Is there a question in there?
Yep, it is. I promise you it is. Stetson, I did ask the question. I said,
no, I know. I'm teasing with you.
I know. Carson Beck is in a way better position to succeed than Desmond Ridder.
Well, of course, to succeed,
You
but
know why?
This is apples and oranges. It's the NFL and college.
Right. You're right. Thank you for that. He's got elite talent around him, and every position at Georgia, he's got 5-star talent on the line. He's got, I know they're a little.
Not even a question. Of course, Carson Beck's got the keys to a Ferrari, but Desmond Ridder's got the way better situation. He's in the NFL getting paid.
What do you think Carson Beck is? He's getting paid too.
not as much as Desmond Ridder, I guarantee you that. Desmond Ridder's a 3rd-round pick, and Desmond Ridder's starting to get the reps. And let me tell you something. Desmond Ridder's got pretty good tight end to throw to. I mentioned Mac Hollins, Scotty Miller, a veteran wide receiver, Drake London, a 2nd round, Jonnu Smith, 1st-round draft pick, Ferrari Bijan Robinson, a pretty good, according to Pro Football Focus, top 10 offensive line. And let me tell you what, this team looks pretty good. I don't know why you're saying the personnel is so bad, but you may want to do your research on how good this team could be. But yes, of course, Carson Beck's got a better situation. Who wouldn't want to play for the Georgia Bulldogs, a 2-time defending national champion, versus a team that's lost 70% of its games in the history of its time? So that's it for them. But Wayne, what's your thoughts?
Because Carson Beck's playing with 5 stars on the line. They are banged up at running back.
It's comparing apples and oranges. They're both great situations.
They have elite wide receivers, and they have.
Because here's the deal: Carson Beck's got pressure on him. If he doesn't perform, he's going to be the guy that lets it crumble. Desmond Ridder, house money.
Oh,
House
it's house
money.
money. If he doesn't play well next year, it's not house money. The Falcons will be drafting in the top
That's
10.
the NFL. That's why it's the NFL. You get paid to do your job.
Right, but
So,
which not house
well,
money.
let's let Wayne answer and let's get the heck out of here.
Well, hang on. You said he was playing with house money. Let me just say this. It's not, he's not playing with house money. If he doesn't play well, the Falcons are going to draft in the top 10.
Correct, because there's no expectations for him.
Well,
There's none. There's absolutely no expectations for Desmond Ridder.
there are. You just said this is going to be a team that's going to win the division and make the playoffs. You just
I did not say they were going to win the division. I said they're going to win 9 games, and that could win the division.
Oh,
because
what a
8 games won the division last year.
You know what? You guys, I tell you, here's the deal.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Carson Beck could be making more money than Desmond Ridder. You don't know his NIL situation.
You can go look it up, but let's let Wayne answer the question, and we'll get out of here because I just think that's apples to oranges.
It is, but he's
What's your thought? Who has the better situation, Beck or Ridder?
I would say Ridder.
Oh,
I'm the same
you
way.
homers.
It's the NFL. You just got drafted. There's no expectation. You're in the NFL.
No. Give me Carson Beck. Carson Beck, if he plays
It's apples and oranges. Would you rather play in the NFL or college, Todd?
well, I'd rather be in Carson Beck's shoes, and here's why. Because
No, and answer the question. Would you rather play in the NFL or in college?
I'm trying to answer, but you interrupted me. Carson Beck, if he plays well this year, he'll be a top 10 NFL draft choice. He'll be in a better situation than Desmond Ridder. He's on an elite NFL, he's on an elite college football team who has a chance to three-peat. Desmond Ridder's on a team with average NFL personnel except for certain positions. And if Desmond Ridder does not play well this year, he won't be starting in the NFL next year. There's a lot of pressure on him. There's pressure on Beck too, don't get me wrong. But Beck's chances of succeeding are higher than Ridder's based on the personnel around.
Yeah, because it's, again, the apples to oranges. It's the NFL versus college football. That's why I said, would you rather play up at the highest level or one below it?
That wasn't my
It's an opinion question. There's no wrong answer here. It's a matter of opinion on if you cherish the NFL more or the college. And I'd rather play at the highest level than be a question at the college level. But hey, everybody has their tits and tats, and obviously you'd rather play college football in this situation. That's fine. Guys, that's our final thoughts. Go ahead, finish it up.
I never said that. You put words in my mouth. I said I would rather be in Carson Beck's situation in terms of winning because he's got elite college talent around him. And if he plays well.
So you never answered my question. Oh, okay. So now let's ask the question that I asked. Would you rather play in the NFL or college?
Would I rather play in the NFL or college? It depends on the money. If I've got more NIL
Oh, God. This is what I'm talking. You can't even do it. You can't even have fun with you.
Yeah, I can. I was going to answer it. You didn't let me finish. I just said if my NIL money is better in college and I'm
throw everything out the window. NIL, everything out the window. 5 years ago, would you rather play in the NFL or college?
Well, I'll get to it. I told you it depends on the situation.
No, not depending. Don't do any depending.
Well,
NFL or college.
Statement, then I can answer the question. In Carson Beck's situation, if he plays well, he's a top 10 NFL draft choice.
You said that 4 times. I got it.
Well, but I keep saying it because I can't get to the ending because you won't let me get to the ending. I'm trying to get to the ending. I really am, but you won't let me get there. I told you, if he'll have a top 10 pick, he'll make more money. We don't know his money now, and I tell you what, a 3rd round pick is only making so much money in the NFL, and it takes him 5 years to get to the money. There's a lot of guys in college right now that are playing college ball that are making more than the guys in the NFL. Thanks to NIL.
Not many. So, there's only a couple guys that are making more than $1 million a year. There's only a couple.
No, there's more than
you get your 6-figure deals. You get your high 6 figures. Most guys aren't making anywhere close to $1 million a year, and that's exactly what Desmond Ridder's getting is $1 million a year.
I'm just telling you right now, these players are going to make big money sitting in college for 4 years due to the NIL, due to where they start. Look, I'm just telling you, I like the team.
Oh, well, you're telling me, but I can't have an opinion unless it's yours, basically. Because
No, go ahead.
honestly, Wayne and I are throwing everything out the window and saying we'd rather play at the highest level. Again,
Well,
this
you're
is
asking me-
asinine. This is a stupid
you're
conversation. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to do the host thing. I'm going to wrap this show up.
You're asking me what level I'd rather play at. That's a different
period. That's it. I'm not asking any circumstances, no NIL, no nothing. Would you rather play at the highest level or one below it?
That's a different question than I posed to you. If I would have posed that question from the beginning,
but see, again, that's what you're not hearing me.
I don't hear you. I would rather play in the NFL. Duh.
There we go. It's an opinion question. I'd rather play in the NFL. Period. I don't care.
But I asked the question, whose situation is better to succeed?
And I still think Ritter's is better because it's the NFL. It's that simple to me.
Your opinion.
We have different opinions on it, Todd. It's okay.
Correct.
You're yelling at me, and I'm just trying to tell you the whole time.
I got
an
to talk
opinion.
over you. You can't have a conversation.
I let you talk the entire time, buddy. This is on film. We'll let the people decide in the comments as they usually do. Folks, for Todd Corder on the other side of Atlanta, for Wayne Ridenhour in Memphis, Tennessee, we are all ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you next week. Get your